So the big question is Thailand for degenerates and Malaysia for families, holiday-wise that is. I'm sure merely the question has ruffled some tail feathers, but let's dig into it. Ask almost anyone who hasn't necessarily been to either country, and they'll tell you that Bangkok is synonymous with the sex trade. Even the name Bangkok. Interesting. What about Pattaya? Pattaya as well. Synonymous with the sex trade, and more so synonymous with retired elderly Western men meeting and living with or having temporary holiday romances, if you want to call it that, with much younger females. Malaysia, on the other hand, has a more clean reputation. Part of it is that it's a Muslim majority country, so people do not automatically associate Malaysia with the sex trade. But, there's a big but, the city of Kuala Lumpur has a thriving, let's call it, flesh trade. Bukit Bintang and other areas, proper red light districts. Okay, it's not in your face. It's not what Kuala Lumpur is most famous for. You're not going to see it around the Petronas Towers or the traditional Malay village, Kampong Baru. And you're not going to see it in many other cities openly in Malaysia. But Kuala Lumpur has proper red light districts, irrespective of the flesh trade or prostitution being illegal in Malaysia. It exists, and Malaysians apparently are also frequent users of the flesh trade in other countries, mainly Thailand. People cross the border from Malaysia into Thailand, many with the sole aim of partaking in the flesh trade. Okay, so people are going to say, oh, look, hypocrites, a Muslim majority country, yet they've got these red light districts, and Malaysian people as a whole, not as a whole, but Malaysian people, some men are known to partake in the flesh trade in neighboring countries. Those hypocrite Muslims, people may say. Well, actually, if we look at Kuala Lumpur, even though Malaysia is a majority Muslim country, Kuala Lumpur, Muslims make up barely 50% of the population. Malaysia is a multi-religious country, and it just so happens that Kuala Lumpur, in fact, founded by Chinese, city, capital of Malaysia, capital of a Malay state, if one exists. Actually, its capital was founded by the Chinese, and the population of Kuala Lumpur is still, to a large extent, consisting of Chinese, Indians, and Malays, obviously. So let the Malaysian involvement or partaking in the flesh trade not be an indictment of Muslim people. It's a multi-religious country. Not that Muslims are not partaking in it as well, but just making a point. Now, going back to the question, for holidays, is Thailand for degenerates and is Malaysia for families? The fact is that in most of the tourist spots in Malaysia, the flesh trade is not in your face. So certainly, if you're going on a family holiday, Malaysia would be more sterile in terms of that. There are red light districts that if you don't want your family, your children to be exposed to, you basically just avoid. It's pretty easy to avoid as well. One of the most famous island destinations in Malaysia, Langkawi. There are these massage parlors here and there, but they're not widespread like you'd find in Phuket. And also, some of the massage parlors, or many of them, are probably legitimate. When I say legitimate, as in massage parlors without the option of happy endings. Who knows? But there are such massage parlors in both Thailand and in Malaysia. So don't assume that every massage parlor is part of the flesh trade. Going back to Kuala Lumpur, you're not going to see the flesh trade around the most famous parts, whether it's the Petronas Towers, or as I said, Kampong Baru, or in the main CBD. The flesh trade is not the focus of Malaysian tourism. So that's different. Thailand, on the other hand, by whether intended or not intended, it is what it is. It's associated with the flesh trade. Now, go back to the islands. Okay, we mentioned Langkawi. Let's talk about another set of islands, the Perhentian Islands. You could go on a family holiday to these locations, and if the flesh trade disturbs you, you don't want your children to see this, you can easily go on a holiday to these places and you're not going to see it. There may be some question marks when you see some massage shops. You may have a question mark in your mind about whether this offers happy endings or not. But it'll be just a question mark. It's not obvious to your kids. But if you go to Thailand, whether it be Bangkok, you go to the busiest, most famous areas of Bangkok, you go to Phuket as well, the flesh trade is going to be in your face. Not so much in Krabi, not so much in many other parts of the country. But Phuket, Bangkok, Pattaya, it's going to be in your face. So, it depends on how you feel about that and how you feel about your children being exposed to seeing the flesh trade operating. Now, personally, for me, I would say that the flesh trade exists in almost every country in the world. Muslim countries, Catholic countries, countries that are known for being very family friendly, throughout Europe, throughout the West. So I feel it's, unfortunately, perhaps, a part of life. And I'd actually like my children to see what's going on in the world, and then for me to explain to them what's going on, to get it from me. Yeah. So personally, and this is a personal choice, not everyone will agree with me, but I feel that them seeing the flesh trade in Thailand and me explaining it to them, explaining this international phenomenon to them, is okay. Is actually, to me, I see it as a positive thing rather than them discovering it on their own and finding out more about it on their own without the guidance of their dad. Now, have I kept my children away from Leicester Square, the very central part of London? No. M&M World is there. Have I stopped them from going to M&M World? Because Soho exists in close proximity? Have we not walked through Soho, even though there's an, let's say, ancient flesh trade in Soho? Have we not needed to go from one part of Leicester Square, the very center of London, to Chinatown and have to pass Soho? We have. So it hasn't stopped us from visiting central London. Agadir, for that matter. What's Agadir in Morocco synonymous for? Has it stopped us from visiting this beautiful city? No. So for me, this is my opinion, that Thailand can be perfectly, well, not perfectly, but can be acceptable as a holiday for families. You could perhaps, if you wanted to, avoid the certain central parts, Nana Plaza, Soi 6 of Bangkok, not go there with your children. You could probably avoid Phuket. You could maybe go to Krabi, or you could go to all of them. I've been to Bangkok. I didn't go with my kid to Nana Plaza, the center of it, but where our hotel was located, there was flesh trade nearby. I didn't know it was, but there was. Likewise, we've been to Phuket with a kid as well. And what I can say is, ladies who are involved in the flesh trade in Phuket, they were actually very respectful. You know, they call in customers. And this is a difficult thing, you know. Whether you have a beard, however you look, whether you look like someone very Muslim or otherwise, I suppose even if a priest walked down there, you know, they do try to call the customers in, but they were very respectful. Ladies would just start to talk or just rise up from their seats outside their massage shops and about to try and solicit business, and they'd notice my son with me, and they'd just go dead quiet and they'd sit back down. So very respectful. So the title of this video was actually clickbait. I don't judge people and judge them by their decisions. So when I said, is Thailand for degenerates holiday-wise, I actually don't judge people's choices as long as it's within the law, as long as they are consenting adults. Obviously, I have being a Muslim, we have a certain moral code that we're meant to adhere to, and we try our best to adhere to. And sometimes we have shortcomings. We're not perfect, but obviously certain things that happen in Thailand conflict with our moral code. But at the same time, I don't judge people, provided that they're doing things consenting and within the law. Obviously, I'd like people to aspire to a certain moral code that maybe perhaps my faith and other faiths promote, but I respect personal choice. And when we spoke about Pattaya at the beginning, about elderly men with young women, remember that these are elderly retirees from the West, maybe 70 plus years old, perhaps with a 20-year-old woman. The law of the land is that above 18 is a consenting adult. So even though these huge age gaps are unusual for us in certain countries, provided that they are adhering to the law of the land, this is their personal choices, and I do not refer to these men as degenerates. I basically used that title as clickbait because, let's be honest, you wouldn't watch it. A lot of you wouldn't watch this video had I not used that title. For me, a degenerate would really be someone, the less than 1%, who'd go to places like this to do dodgy things. Obviously, wherever the flesh trade is, There is, we can't deny it. And this is not only Thailand, this is Europe, this is the middle of London, this is America. Wherever there is flesh trade, there is human trafficking involved. Although in places like Thailand, I would say for the vast majority of people, even the women in these trades, they are doing it out of their own free will. So it's their choice. Perhaps sometimes pressured by families, but these are adults making choices. If they're pressured by their family, but they're an adult, they decided to, give in to that pressure and go into this industry. It's an adult choice. So in most cases, whatever's happening is by choice of consenting adults. Obviously, human trafficking is unacceptable, but again, this is not a Thai problem. Human trafficking is across the world, and if you don't know, it exists, and women are trafficked, and they are trafficked women now, this very day, in London. Yet, in the West, we want to lecture people about morality, yet there are trafficked women working in London. So people who obviously are trafficking women are degenerates. Those are the real degenerates. People who are not adhering to the law, cases where there are children involved in this trade, children, these are degenerates. But I strongly believe that these things are probably less than 1% of this trade in Thailand. So I would not judge the country by what's happening on a less than 1% scale. Obviously, it needs to be tackled as it needs to be tackled in the West. The same things, the same problems we have in the West, they have over there, and in Malaysia as well, and in any country in the world. So anyway, the final analysis is that, yes, if you had to choose between Thailand and Malaysia for a family holiday, Malaysia wins, absolutely wins. For a single person's holiday, because we know what single people are looking for in Thailand, Thailand wins. Alcohol, for example, available in Malaysia. So it's not only the flesh trade, alcohol as well. Available in Malaysia, available in Thailand, but more widespread available in Thailand. So certain people, even if that doesn't fit in with my moral code, I don't drink alcohol personally. I know certain people would prefer Thailand over Malaysia. But for families, absolutely Malaysia is the winner, and probably for single people, probably Thailand's the winner. Personally, I went to both countries in one trip. Personally, this is what I would recommend.